Hey everybody, it's Bust with a patch notes review for Backpack Battles. And so the 9.2.1 patch has been released. This is the first balance patch after the release of the skills, and I wanted to circle back anyways and do a video re-evaluating all of the skills now that we've had a week of gameplay under our belts. I am historically terrible at evaluating things before they're released. I really have to get those reps in to feel how the items work or the cards work or the skills work, and I feel like my evaluations now are much better than they were at the initial release, and so hopefully we can help you guys out with that. The caveat I have with this is I've played Ranger exclusively since the skills have been released. I don't have good perspective on the other classes, the Pyromancer, the Reaper, the Berserker, so I'm not going to talk about their skills specifically, but we will talk about the general skills along with the Ranger ones. It's also an interesting week to be playing the Ranger in the sense that the two new items were added, the Rat Chef and the Squirrel Archer. This is a collaboration with Claws and Chaos. I don't know what that is, but congratulations on getting into the game here. You're up in the highlands with Magic and Balatro, and so I hope that turns out to be a cool thing. And no idea what that actually is. And so let's get in and talk about these two new items first, and then we'll bring it back and talk about the skills here at the end. And so the first item added in, the Rat Chef. This one looks very powerful to me. As far as the Ranger is concerned, I feel like there's two main paths that you go down on the course of the Ranger in the current state of the game. You're either going for a big OTK style of build, you're looking for those big crit builds that kill your opponent almost immediately, or you're going for a big scaling food build to where you get the bowl of treats down and then you either buff steal a bunch of stuff off of your opponents, or maybe you found a flame badge to make pyromancer items to make a flame whip, maybe you found a berserker badge to find cheeses. You have just big scaling in terms of stats, and then you tend to just kill your opponent because you have like 150 stats and they have 30. And so the interesting thing in that aspect is the Rat Chef is quite good in those scaling builds. Those scaling builds tend to not be able to deal a bunch of damage because the weapon doesn't actually scale damage. You're out there with like a Thorn Bloom, which is scaling up your health, dealing a little bit of extra damage due to your thorns, but you really need an additional way to boost up the damage to actually kill off your opponent. And so that's what's interesting to me with the Rat Chef. This is a very combat-oriented food to where it doesn't really fit in with the food builds. This wants to be in the space of being with a big attack style of build. And so I'm curious to see if this can't pan itself out to work with, say, fancy fencing rapiers. It's very interesting in terms of the big busted berserker sword, which really wants you to have a bunch of stamina and a bunch of empowered. And I'm mainly interested in this in terms of seeing if it makes vampiric items matter, right? Bloodthorn isn't exactly relevant as far as the Ranger goes right now. I typically just build Bloodthorns because I wanted a Thorn Bloom, but the items never came together, and I'm about to lose. And so I have to get good now, so I make the Bloodthorn to make me more combat effective. I'm curious if the Rat Chef actually makes the Bloodthorns, makes them great again. You know, the MAGA out here on the Bloodthorn as to where you could potentially pop off 4 or 5 hearts at the beginning of the battle with one Rat Chef, not crazy to get up to 10. And then just soak all of those away with the Bloodthorn fueling it, and then also getting this stamina and empowered ability there. And so lots of potential powers out of the Rat Chef. It strikes me as quite strong right out the gates, especially because you tend to just have healing herbs in the mid game, right? This isn't the kind of item to where you're like, oh cool, it's round 12 and I found a rat, let me go and dig up one of these healing herbs. What this is typically going to be is, oh, I've got this healing herbs from round 2, I never sold it because it's so bag effective, only taking up 1 slot, and now I have the way to upgrade it into this mega powerful item. And so I expect a lot of things out of this Rat Chef. He seems to be quite strong to me. Otherwise, the other new one is the Squirrel Archer. While I'm kind of cool with the Rat Chef, I'm not a huge fan of the Squirrel Archer. Again, these like buff-centric style of scaling builds that come out of the Ranger tend to just fail in the sense of being able to deal damage. And so some of the counters that you run into them tend to be things like the Reaper, going with big poison, going with buff canceling, going with their own buff scaling. That tends to be where you lose because you can't deal enough damage even if you have the big stacks of like 150 buffs. But now that your buff stealing thing also deals damage, I'm not the hugest fan of seeing that come out and be a thing. I guess the kind of saving grace to the Squirrel Archer is twofold. Number one, it's very hard to find bows once the squirrel is online. And it's also not the kind of item you probably wanted to be holding onto all game since bows cost 4. So you probably won't come across the Squirrel Archers too often. And so it feels a little bit safer in that sense. But just taking what is one of the most powerful things in the Ranger, and then just having it shore up one of the biggest Ranger weaknesses of that build feels kind of meh to me. And so I guess you can adjust the damage, adjust the cooldown so it's not that crazy, and it shouldn't be dealing tons and tons of damage anyways. I just don't conceptually like the idea of what's coming out of the Squirrel Archer, taking the big high-end, top-end item out of the Ranger, and then having it just fix everything that's wrong with that. And so bit of a bummer there to me, but it is what it is. Hopefully it's not too powerful. And so to circle back to the changes themselves, we can take a quick peek at all of these. There's not too many changes this week, and so we'll just start at the top and make our way down. Piggy Pinata buffed a little bit. That's fine. I had some okay games with the Piggy Pinata. It feels like it's in a fairly safe space. Probably much better if you're in a hammer build out of a Pyromancer, but at the end of the day, I had no problems with it. You just buy it, try and break 2 pigs. Once your 2 pigs were gone, you sell it and you're done. And it felt not overpowered and not too RNG centric. And so okay to see that change there. Up into the super spacious bag, I didn't use too many bags over the course of the past week. I felt like it was just an economy item that may give you a bonus later on. And having the sale chance go down makes me suspect that the bag was much more powerful than I gave it credit for. And so interesting to see that. Investment opportunity quite strong in some of the Pyromancer builds. The max health dropped on that, probably a bit necessary. Smithing for Dummies was my pick for the one that needed to be the most likely to need to be nerfed. It did catch a nerf, not as much as I'm surprised to see, but it is on the way down. So not too many changes amongst the common skills. Into the items, the Spectral Dagger catches a buff. The Holy Spear catches a buff for probably the 5th patch in a row now. Maybe you'll pop off one day, my friend. And then some less interesting things out here. Crossblades buff, good luck building it. The Blood Harvester just taking literally 0 stamina now, LOL. The Stable Recombobulator, I fucking hate this thing, just take it out of the game. But I guess it needed more buffs, so why not? And Artifact Stone Death catches a bit of a boost. Down with these other things, the Dragon set, I haven't played with the Berserker this patch, don't know how crazy that is. Excuse me, the Big Bowl of Treats cooldown, I feel like this is maybe the 3rd patch in a row the Big Bowl of Treats has been nerfed. And I still probably go Big Bowl of Treats in over half of my games with the Ranger. And so I don't think this is enough to really nerf it down. I would not be surprised to see the Big Bowl of Treats continue to get nerfed, especially as we have these 2 new pet items added to the game. And then the rat was catching a buff here in addition to being a piece of that pet item. And so the Big Bowl of Treats, I think, is probably on track to continue to get nerfed patch after patch. Moving down, the Yggdrasil Leaf, still garbage, generating the health. We'll see if that makes any difference in terms of the healing builds with generating hearts, right? You can use the Yggdrasil Leaf in terms of a mana item or a heart item, the heart item then converting over to thorns item, or I'm sorry, vampiric items. Now that the rat is here to give an additional vampiric angle, I'm curious if that's enough, but I'm not really convinced. The heal there is attached to the mana half of the build. Last but not least, Acorn Ace is exceptionally strong. I don't think Acorn Ace actually even needs the stamina reduction to be good. Just expanding out the size of the the footprint of the acorn was enough. And so just all of this extra stamina reduction is icing on the cake. I would not be surprised to see the stamina reduction continue to just shoot down, and I'm actually very surprised to see the Critwood staff shoot so far up. And so I'm curious if this doesn't make us want to make these Critwood staffs anymore. I just don't make them whatsoever. It's not that big of a deal, but it's kind of wild to see it get that good. And so it'll be interesting to see how we want to go down those paths. As far as these other items go, Fly Agaric catches a bit of a buff. Mushroom Farm I have not built yet, and Dark Ritual I have not built yet either, so I don't have too much input on those. So with the small changes there out of the way, we can pull up these individual skills. To just run through them real quick, Spicy Banana is quite good. You just ignore this stuff about the banana activations. This uses 1 stamina to heal for 3 and is one of the highest powered early game skills in the game. A lot of builds cannot overcome the heal for stamina usage, and you just win against a lot of people that aren't maxing out their stamina spend in the early game. And so it's quite good early. It falls off fairly hard late, but the big thing for me to note is the Spicy Banana activates Gooberts. And so if you find yourself in a Goobert build, every activation on the Spicy Banana will activate the Goobert, and it just completely flies through all of its activations. And so if you are able to spike an early game Goobert to where you have a Chili Goobert, a Carry Goobert, a Hero Sword Goobert, those should just carry you to the survival rounds if you have the Spicy Banana. Now this stuff does fall off in the late game, so you do have to make that consideration. Am I playing to survival or am I playing to the bonus rounds? That build is going to fall apart in the bonus, but it is exceptionally hard for the majority of the builds to kill a Goobert getting puffed by Spicy Banana. I'm not certain if that interaction was intended, but it's there. The thing I call out with it is you need a lot of attacky style of items, so you want to be attacking quickly to get those activations happening fast and not having like a big slow burly attack like the big axes out of the Berserker builds. Very powerful stuff. Up next is the Smelly Wall. Same deal as the banana. It's very strong at getting you to the survival round. It is garbage in the late game. You don't really want to be taking your 7 onion build into the bonus rounds, but if you're maxing out at like 2 or 3 of these garlics and a Smelly Wall, there's just, again, so many builds that can't beat that amount of sustain that it will carry you to the survival round. And so another exceptionally powerful one. The armor gain into poison doesn't matter. You're looking for that big sustain bonus that comes out of that bonus armor. Up next we have the Piggy Pinata. It looks like the tooltip hasn't been updated. I think they had a 30% chance to explode in the previous patch, but again, this was fine. I don't recommend going out of your way to get additional pigs. Like if you purchase this and then a pig shows up in the next round or 2, fine, but you typically look at this to destroy 2 pigs and then you sell it and you're done for the day. That converts into quite a bit of money in the sense that the pinata is 5, the pigs are 3. So if you're investing 11 in your piggy banks and then they blow up for 20 gold worth of stuff, and you get 1 item out of there that you want to use, then you're off to the races and good. If you have to sell it all off, then once you sell the pinata, you're at +2 gold, and so it's not completely terrible. And so I prefer the combat-centric items as opposed to things like Piggy Pinata, but it's not horrible, right? It does actually do some stuff to where finding things like Mana Mastery may do literally nothing. After that, Investment Opportunity is quite good. I found some builds that like this. They all tend to be with the Pyromancer. The big thing that you're looking at with Investment Opportunity is the gold gain every turn. It should pay for itself after 3 turns if you want to just sell it to break even, but it's very easy to just keep this in your bag throughout the course of the game. The best usage of the skill gain that I found with this was with the Flame Whip out of the Pyromancer. Every thorn usage of the Flame Whip gains you this health, and so you do just get tons and tons of health out of this thing. I haven't found any other builds that were really excited about the buff, but to see it get a 25% nerf right out the gates, somebody else must have found out something. Same kind of thing with the Super Spacious. My thought with the Super Spacious was that this should count for like 10 to 15 gold over the course of the game, right? If you're able to just continue to get bags on sale, if half of your bags are on sale and you purchase, 6 bags in total, then 3 of those should be on sale. 3 times 2 is 6, but a lot of the bags cost 5. And so there were just looking at this as an economic item was fine, and then potentially giving one item a 20% attack boost isn't that bad. It seems like people were in agreement with just using it as an econ item, seeing it get nerfed down so harshly so quickly. I didn't have a ton of success with it, but I'm pretty sure that that's the angle. I feel about the same as I did before with its slime time. What I typically do with this is just buy it and then just sell off the main item. Having that singular Goobert around in the early game is fine. There's no good scaling aspects to this. Having your Gooberts advance one activation every 4 seconds isn't really enough to do anything exciting, and so I basically just bought the slime time, sold off the main item, and then had that little Goobert for 2 gold, which isn't that bad of a deal. It's good early. It activates off of 3 activations and heals for 5, so it gives you good heal early, but it's not enough to sustain into the late game, and it was always just worse than the likes of the Spicy Banana or the Smelly Wall. Sometimes you just got stuck with it, like you'll find one of these builds that has Hardwood, Mana Mastery, and then it's Slime Time, so you just get stuck, but it's again that turd with the corn in it, right? You're digging through the turd, you find the nice little kernel of corn. That's what that little goobling is. Afterwards, Shielded is unfortunately one of these items that sometimes just doesn't do anything. As I've been playing the Ranger over the course of the past week, I've been building a Thorn Armor in literally every single game, and the Shielded at least gives you some bonuses there. It is worth noting that it's a plus percentage to block, so the shield blocks at 30%. This item makes it now block at 50%, which is quite good. It's not a percentage gain to where your 30% chance to block becomes like 36% or something. And so very powerful in that sense, but not enough to make me really want to go after shields and armors too heavily. This is, again, kind of like the Goobert, as to where it's like, I got offered up Hardwood and Mana Mastery. I at least have a shield, so this does something, but it's not something that I'm ever actively seeking out. Same deal applies to Stoned. I have never built Stones or Stone Golem with the Stone, but having this armor crit reduction thing is quite good. And so it's very easy to incidentally have a bunch of armor, whether or not that's having a Garlic in your build, having a Flute in your build. You get those percentages throughout the course of the battle, and that's fine. I don't recommend just going for the Stones or the Golems, and I don't recommend just going for high armor builds for the sake of having this, but you might hang on to a Garlic a little bit later, right? Since you do get to generate armors throughout the course of the battle. Whenever you have armor, you prevent those crits. I have literally used 0 hardwoods. This item seems like complete garbage, both from the common melee weapons dealing bonus damage and the armor gain. I've seen no build that ever wanted to do this. I mean, maybe I should have given more credit to some kind of hardwood early game bow style of build, but that all sounds like trash to me. The weapons are so important into every single build that you do. I haven't come across a build that's like, oh boy, let me stop with bows and daggers and short swords and see how we carry on to the late game. It just seems like complete trash to me. I've never wanted it. After that, we have the Mana Mastery. My take on the Mana Mastery was that if you get this on round 4, it's going to be complete garbage. If you get this in the late game, that's when you have the potential for it to be good, and that's pretty spot on. There are tons of games to where this turns up at round 4, and it is just completely detrimental. Just gaining 3 armor doesn't really do anything. You probably don't have any mana orbs on turn 4. But if you're in a big mana build pushing into the late game and you find Mana Mastery as your second skill, you're probably pretty excited. And so it's still in the same boat, just a matter of finding when it's good and if it fits within your build. After that, we have Power of the Moon. Same deal here with my initial evaluation as to where you get Power of the Moon for the Fatigue Start ability. You get that big heal of 40% of your health, and this other stuff is all incidental. You might find some Reaper builds that are excited to start Fatigue early, but this is all about getting that 40% bonus to your maximum health, or that 40% heal up to your maximum health as Fatigue hits. Tends to be pretty good in the earlier rounds and then does nothing later on. And so it's not an item I'm ever excited to have, but that heal can be quite big if you're a build that's kind of like a slow grind into the late game. Last but not least, we have the Smithing for Dummies, and I'm still quite big on this. This is an exceptional item. It makes it very easy to get high-powered hero sword-based items, just having this thing pop up. You're using crafted weapons throughout the course of the game, so getting those big stamina reductions can be to the point that you get to use extra weapons now. And so this is, again, exceptionally strong. As the time has progressed, I think if I had to tier list off these common skills, the ones that I'm actively excited about, the ones that I really want to find in the early game are Spicy Banana and Smelly Wall. The ones that I'm okay-ish to find, the ones that we'll use if they turn up on round 4, that would be the Pinata, the Investment Opportunity, and then the Smithing for Dummies. After that, we have the ones that are just, you know, if we get shown hardwood, what do we have to take? That would be the It's Slime Time, things like Shielded, things like Stoned, and then the ones that I just don't build are basically the hardwood and the Mana Mastery. The Mana Mastery probably in that space of I don't like mana builds with the Ranger, and I've only played the Ranger over the past week, so some other builds may enjoy it. I'm just not coming across those. As far as the Ranger-specific ones go, the Acorn Ace, I was very surprised is catching some buffs across the board. I guess it makes sense with the Critwood Staff, given that the Critwood Staff eats the Acorn Collar, and then you don't have the Acorn Collar anymore, but you can just make another Acorn Collar. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm very interested in using this almost 0 stamina Critwood Staff in just a normal bow-based crit build. Just saying, oh shit, I get a free weapon, right? And so, very interesting to see that change kind of come about. Otherwise, with these changes, again, I think that the stamina reduction is too high. It's not really necessary. The expansion of the slots with this is quite strong. It gets you in that space to where if you're looking at a crit build in the Ranger, you typically only get 2 weapons within your crit radius. You can, if you have 2 big bows along with your kind of activator item, get 3 of them around it. But as you add in things like Acorn Collars, it's very common to go up to like 4 and 5 and 6 weapons, and just having them all hit on a single Acorn Collar is quite good. I would suspect I don't do too much dagger builds, but dagger builds would love this aspect as well. And so I think that the expansion slots are just enough. Would not be surprised to see this get nerfed again. Otherwise, with the Markswoman, this is a very tough one. I made a video in the last week to where we took Markswoman on round 4, then just didn't find any bows, right? That is the potential kind of problem to run into, but this one just strikes me as fine, right? If we're on round 4, and it comes down to taking like a Spicy Banana or a Markswoman, I want the Spicy Banana. This is just a much more mid-tier style of item than we get from there, but it's not bad, right? I would put it at like tier 1.5 in terms of what these skills do if you are on track to go for bows. And so I still want Spicy Banana, I still want Garlic Wall. I'll take those over Markswoman, but if we have like a Tusk Piercer and then Markswoman turns up, I'm fine with just converting straight into a bow build from there and pushing on out. And so hopefully that helped you with the new skills patch. Get out there, have you some fun, because that's going to do it for us today. So if everyone enjoyed the video, hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bust to Me. Thank you for being here.